You drift across the Mongol camp as twilight cloaks the steppe in a velvet haze, the air thick with the scent of cooling earth and smoldering embers. The stars above flicker like scattered pearls, casting a faint glow over the yurts, their felt walls rippling in the evening breeze. The camp hums with the soft clink of armor and the distant neigh of horses, but a strange stillness lingers near one yurt, its entrance framed by jean silk embroidered with fading lotuses. Inside, a noblewoman, whom we'll call Lady Jing, moves like a shadow, her presence a whisper of defiance that haunts the Mongols' triumphs. You smile wryly. Nobles like her seem to linger even in death, don't they? As if their spirits refuse to bow to conquest? You glide closer, the grass whispering under your feet, and peer into the yurt's dim interior. A single candle burns low, its flame dancing on a bronze stand shaped like a crane, casting trembling shadows across a woven rug looted from Kaifeng's fallen halls. Lady Jing, once a poetess in the Jin court, sits with a scroll in her lap, its parchment yellowed but adorned with her own delicate calligraphy. Her robes, a deep russet fading to saffron at the edges, shimmer faintly, as if woven from starlight. The air carries the scent of ink and jasmine, a fragile echo of her lost world. You chuckle softly. These Jin ladies clung to their scrolls and poems, as if words could shield them from the steppe's harsh winds. The historical nugget here is as poignant as the candle's glow. After the Jin dynasty's fall in 1234, Ojidi Khan's conquest left countless noble women, like Lady Jing, bound to Mongol lords through forced marriages, their lives a tapestry of sorrow and silent resistance. Jing, in our tale, was given to a warrior named Bayan, a man whose victories earned him her hand but not her loyalty. Her spirit, unyielding as the ink on her scroll, seems to haunt the camp, a specter of the Jin's lost glory. You notice her fingers, once skilled at brushing verses, now tracing the scroll's edges, her movement slow, as if savoring each word. The yurt's warmth feels heavy, the candles light a fragile defiance against the encroaching dark. Lady Jing lifts her gaze, her eyes catching the candlelight like polished jade. You sense a weight in her silence, a story untold. The quirky elite oddity of the Jin court shines through even now. Noble women often wore hairpins with tiny bells, their faint chimes a signal to trusted maids in bustling palaces. Jing's hairpin, a silver piece shaped like a crescent moon, tinkles softly as she moves, a sound so faint it could be mistaken for the wind. You smirk. Imagine hiding signals and hairpins while surrounded by warriors who think a good raid is the height of elegance. Yet, her presence feels otherworldly, as if the yurt itself holds its breath, wary of her ghostly resolve. Outside, the camp settles into night. A guard's shadow flickers, his spear gleaming under the stars, and you hear the low jangle of horse bells, those silver trinkets the Mongols adore, looted from Jin temples. Lady Jing unrolls her scroll, revealing a poem of loss and defiance, its characters sharp as daggers. The scholarly riddle whispers through the ages. Did Jin women, like Jing, leave behind coded messages in their art, sowing seeds of unrest among their captors? Some historians muse that poems and letters, smuggled through servants, carried plans that frayed Mongol unity, though no chronicle confirms Jing's name. Her scroll, you sense, is more than poetry. It's a testament, a ghost that haunts Bayan's victories. You linger, drawn to Jing's quiet defiance, her silhouette a wisp against the yurt's walls. The candle flickers, and you notice a shadow move, a Jin servant, her face pale as moonlight, slipping into the yurt. She kneels, offering a small lacquered box, its surface etched with peonies. Their eyes meet, a silent pact, and you wonder if the box holds a final act of resistance. The Mongols, bless their hearts, have a habit you find absurd. They carve looted jade into amulets, believing it wards off spirits. You picture Jing scoffing at such superstition, her poet's soul unswayed by their crude charms. The air grows heavy, as if the stars themselves lean closer, sensing a storm in her silence. The night deepens, and you step back, the steppes cool air brushing your skin. You imagine Jing's life in the Jin court, composing verses under lantern-lit pavilions, her words celebrated by scholars. Now, Her world is this yurt, its walls a cage draped in fading silk. The candle gutters, and Jing's scroll curls shut, her fingers lingering on the hairpin. Is she a ghost, as the camp whispers, or a woman whose defiance burns brighter than their torches? The stars above hold no answers, but her presence lingers, a shadow that unsettles the Mongols' dreams. As the camp fades into silence, you feel the weight of Jing's story settle around you. The yurts grow dim, the fires banked low, and the steppe stretches into a vast, quiet void. You drift, carried by the wind, away from the torches and the clink of armor. Lady Jing's scroll, her hairpin, her whispered verses, they dissolve into the night, a gentle hum that lulls your thoughts. The stars soften, their light a tender embrace, and you sink into a stillness as deep as the steppe itself. The tales of Jin women, their sorrow and defiance, fade into a soothing murmur, like a river finding its way to the sea. Let the night carry you now, its whispers a lullaby, guiding you to dreams where shadows hold no power and spirits find peace at last. As the agonizing washing continued, you might try to avert your gaze, but the sheer brutality of it holds a morbid fascination. The iron brush, relentlessly tearing at the flesh, created not just wounds but a canvas of sheer agony. It wasn't merely a physical punishment, it was a profound act of defilement, designed to obliterate any remnants of the woman's identity and purity. The silence of the onlookers, broken only by the horrific sounds of the washing and the occasional gasps, amplified the terror. These nobles, so refined in their poetry and tea ceremonies, could be astonishingly cruel when their sense of order was challenged. It makes you wonder if they ever truly considered the human cost of their rigid moral codes, or if the screams were just background noise to their perfectly orchestrated lives. You could almost hear a wry chuckle from a long-dead chronicler, observing how these royals turned societal control into a gruesome spectacle. The purpose of such a gruesome spectacle was clear: to instill fear and enforce absolute conformity within the rigid hierarchical structure of ancient Chinese society. The woman, even if she survived the initial ordeal, would be left permanently disfigured, a living testament to the consequences of defying the established norms. Her body became a public warning, a grotesque example of what awaited those who dared to stray from the path of chastity and obedience. This was not about rehabilitation. It was about public shaming and a brutal form of social engineering. Imagine the psychological scars, far deeper than the physical ones, that would haunt a survivor. It's a dark twist, revealing how the opulence of noble life could conceal such profound suffering. One key historical nugget that adds another layer to this grim picture is the legal disparity between men and women. While men found guilty of adultery might face fines, banishment, or even a beating, the punishments for women were disproportionately severe, often involving disfigurement, public humiliation, or death. This stark contrast highlights the deeply ingrained patriarchal nature of the society, where a woman's value was primarily tied to her purity and her role within the family lineage. It's a concept that would make modern sensibilities real. These rules were so convoluted, it's a wonder anyone kept track. Consider the everyday life of a noble woman. Confined largely to the inner quarters, her world was often one of gilded cages, surrounded by luxuries, but lacking true freedom. Her education might focus on domestic arts, poetry, and calligraphy, but rarely on self-determination. Her marriage was typically an arrangement to secure family alliances or consolidate power, not a matter of personal choice. In such a restrictive environment, any desire for affection or connection outside the sanctioned bounds was not just a moral failing, but an act of rebellion against the entire social fabric. It's a subtle menace, a whisper of a hidden life, contrasting sharply with the public image of demure grace. This leads us to a fascinating, if disturbing, quirky elite oddity: the elaborate beauty standards of the time, which often contrasted sharply with the potential for such brutal disfigurement. Noble women would spend hours on intricate hairstyles, applying powders made from crushed pearls, and donning layers of exquisite silk. Yet, all this painstaking effort to create an image of ethereal beauty could be shattered in an instant by an accusation. It's almost as if the very pursuit of perfection created a higher fall, a greater target, for righteous indignation. You might even joke that their beauty routines were more complex than most modern engineering projects, only to be undone by a single misplaced desire. The psychological impact of the washing punishment must have been profound, not just on the victim, but on the entire community. It served as a constant, terrifying reminder of the thin line between honor and disgrace, between life and a fate worse than death. The threat of such a punishment would have hung like a pall over the lives of many women, forcing them into a state of perpetual fear and self-censorship. It's a chilling thought that the very air they breathed was imbued with the potential for such horrifying retribution. This was truly an era where societal control was exercised with an iron fist, disguised beneath silken gloves. Historians still ponder an intriguing scholarly riddle. To what extent did these extreme punishments for female adultery genuinely reduce such acts? Or did they simply drive them further underground, fostering a culture of intense secrecy and betrayal? Was it truly a deterrent, or did it merely create a more dangerous game of cat and mouse within the opulent confines of the noble estates? One can imagine the elaborate schemes and desperate measures taken to conceal illicit affairs, transforming whispers of love into whispers of deadly plots. Perhaps some believe the brutal acts were a form of karmic retribution, a balance against perceived moral decay. It makes you wonder about the untold stories, the secrets buried beneath centuries of official narratives. The sheer desperation that would drive a woman to risk such a fate is a testament to the oppressive nature of her existence. Perhaps it was a fleeting moment of passion, a desperate yearning for connection, or even a false accusation leveled by a jealous rival or a disgruntled servant. In a society where a woman had little agency, where her life was often dictated by the whims of men and the strictures of tradition, a forbidden liaison might have been the only avenue for personal expression or emotional escape. This indirect telling of dark turns reminds us of the profound tragedy beneath the surface. The washing punishment was a stark illustration of the power dynamics at play, where the ruling elite could wield absolute authority over the lives and bodies of their subjects, especially women. It was a tool of control, a brutal mechanism for maintaining social order and patriarchal dominance. The very thought of it makes you appreciate the strides made in human rights, though the echoes of such past cruelties still linger in the darker corners of history. It's a reminder that beauty and brutality can coexist within the same era, like a delicate orchid growing from blood-soaked soil. You can almost hear the soft, mournful strains of a pipa, playing a tune that mirrors the sorrow and despair of those who faced such cruelties. The washing punishment wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a broader tapestry of control, often veiled under the guise of maintaining social harmony and family honor. The irony, of course, is that such brutal acts often ripped families apart, sowing seeds of resentment and fear rather than true harmony. You might even find a grim humor in the lengths these nobles went to preserve their image, as if polishing a tarnished silver mirror with the very blood of their subjects. Consider, for a moment, the historical context. Dynasties rose and fell, emperors ascended and were dethroned, but the underlying social hierarchy and the strictures placed upon women remained remarkably consistent. This unwavering severity towards female transgressions highlights a deep-seated fear of female agency and sexuality that permeated much of ancient Chinese thought. It was almost as if the societal fabric was so fragile that a woman's perceived misstep could unravel it entirely. A key historical nugget here is the emphasis on filial piety and chastity arches, public monuments erected to honor women who maintained their purity, even in extreme circumstances like widowhood. The contrast with the washing punishment is stark, two sides of the same coin, both enforcing strict moral codes through vastly different means. Beyond the physical torment, imagine the profound psychological scarring. A woman, once perhaps admired for her beauty or grace, reduced to a disfigured shell, an object of revulsion and pity. Her name would be whispered in hushed tones, synonymous with disgrace, her very existence a cautionary tale. This wasn't merely punishment. It was an erasure, a stripping away of her identity and worth in the eyes of society. The echoes of her screams would resonate not just in the torture chamber, but in the fearful hearts of every woman who heard her story. It's a shadow moving, and a collective dread settles upon the women of the court, unseen but deeply felt. An intriguing scholarly riddle that persists is whether the washing punishment was a widespread, officially sanctioned legal practice across all dynasties, or if it was more commonly employed as an informal, extra-legal form of justice meted out by powerful families or local authorities. The precise legal codification of such a specific, gruesome torture remains somewhat elusive in comprehensive historical records, leading historians to ponder if its widespread reputation stemmed more from whispered tales and fear than from systematic application. It makes you wonder how much truth lies in the shadows of popular history, rather than in neatly documented imperial edicts. Perhaps these dark methods were preferred precisely because they left fewer official traces, making accountability a rather slippery concept for the powerful. You might find it a quirky elite oddity that while such barbarity existed, the same society produced some of the most exquisite poetry and delicate art, celebrating natural beauty and refined aesthetics. How could these seemingly contradictory facets coexist? Perhaps it was a way of maintaining a delicate balance, the beauty to distract from the brutality, the art to civilize the harsh realities. Or perhaps, for the elite, the suffering of others was simply another aspect of the grand, intricate tapestry of life, viewed from a safe, detached distance. These royals turned hypocrisy into an art form, didn't they? The lingering question, of course, is how many women chose to end their own lives rather than face this unimaginable torment. The tales of noble women taking their own lives to preserve honor, even if already accused, are tragically common in historical accounts. The washing punishment was designed to be so dehumanizing, so utterly soul-destroying, that death would indeed be seen as a merciful escape. It speaks volumes about the value placed on a woman's purity over her very life and humanity. The distant murmurs hint at countless unspoken tragedies, the silent choices made in desperation. The atmosphere in the court, already heavy with intrigue and suspicion, would only be amplified by the knowledge that such a fate awaited those who stepped out of line. Every glance, every whispered conversation, every private meeting would be tinged with the fear of being misunderstood, misinterpreted, or, worse, betrayed. The fear was a weapon, wielded just as effectively as the iron brush itself. It created a society where trust was a rare commodity, and loyalty was often purchased through fear rather than genuine affection. You can almost feel the weight of the elaborate headpieces worn by noble women, each pearl and jade ornament a tiny burden, symbolizing the immense societal pressure they endured. The chilling reality of the washing punishment reminds us that while the imperial court shimmered with gold and silk, its foundations were often built on fear and brutal control, especially over female bodies and desires. It's a testament to the lengths a patriarchal society would go to maintain its rigid order, a kind of macabre theater where the most devastating performances unfolded in hushed whispers rather than public pronouncements. It's enough to make you wish you had a tiny, enchanted fan to wave away the lingering specter of dread. The sheer meticulousness of the preparation for such a punishment suggests not just cruelty, but a chilling detachment. Imagine the executioners, going about their grim duties with practiced efficiency, their faces probably devoid of emotion, hardened by countless such spectacles. For them, it was merely a task, a necessary function within the elaborate machinery of imperial justice. This normalization of extreme violence is a terrifying aspect of many historical periods, where human suffering becomes a bureaucratic detail. A key historical nugget often overlooked is the existence of specialized torture chambers within palaces or government buildings, equipped with various instruments, indicating a formalized system for inflicting pain. These weren't spontaneous acts of rage, but calculated acts of terror. You might even joke that they had more specialized tools than a modern surgeon, only for far less benevolent purposes. The reverberations of such punishments extended far beyond the immediate victim. They served as powerful deterrents, shaping the behavior of entire communities, particularly women. The knowledge of what awaited transgressors would enforce a pervasive self-censorship, a constant monitoring of one's own actions and desires. Every illicit glance, every fleeting thought of rebellion, would be instantly stifled by the terrifying image of the iron brush. This quiet, Pervasive fear was perhaps more effective than any armed guard in maintaining societal conformity. It was a subtle menace, weaving its way into the very fabric of daily life, turning intimate thoughts into potential pathways to ruin. An intriguing scholarly riddle centers on the historical impact of such gendered punishments. Did they truly suppress female agency and desire, or did they, paradoxically, foster a deeper, more resilient spirit of clandestine defiance? Were these extreme measures a sign of strength or, perhaps, an underlying insecurity within the ruling class regarding their control over the inner quarters of the palace and gentry homes? Historians still grapple with how much resistance, both overt and subtle, these draconian laws truly engendered. It makes you wonder about the stories that never saw the light of day, the quiet acts of rebellion that defied the brutal norms. You might find it a quirky elite oddity that while women faced such extreme physical punishments for moral transgressions, male members of the nobility often engaged in widespread concubinage, visited pleasure houses, and had multiple wives without facing comparable moral or physical retribution. This glaring double standard wasn't just accepted, it was institutionalized. It highlighted a society where male sexual freedom was seen as a right, while female sexuality, especially outside the confines of marriage, was viewed as a dangerous force requiring brutal suppression. These royals certainly had a peculiar sense of balance, didn't they? It's almost as if they believed rules were for other people. The long-term effects on the collective psyche of the people, particularly women, cannot be overstated. A pervasive sense of vulnerability would have been ingrained from childhood, a constant awareness of the precariousness of their position within the social hierarchy. This created a culture of extreme caution, where every word and action had to be carefully weighed to avoid even the slightest hint of impropriety. The vibrant, colorful world of the imperial court, filled with festivals and ceremonies, had a dark underside, a constant threat lurking beneath the surface, like a venomous snake hidden beneath a pile of shimmering silks. The distant murmurs hint at a chilling legacy of trauma passed down through generations. Think of the artists and poets of the time. While they celebrated love and beauty, how many dared to challenge the brutal realities of their society? Perhaps their art was a form of escape, a way to create a world of beauty and idealism that contrasted sharply with the harshness of their daily lives. Or perhaps, more cynically, their art served to reinforce the prevailing norms, painting a picture of a harmonious society that belied the terror beneath. The beauty of their creations can sometimes mask the ugly truths of their era. The washing punishment stands as a grim reminder of humanity's capacity for cruelty, particularly when power is absolute and certain groups are systematically dehumanized. It's a dark chapter, but one that offers profound insights into the complex, often contradictory nature of historical societies. It reminds us to never take for granted the freedoms and protections we have today, and to always question the hidden costs of societal control. The very air in the imperial gardens, usually fragrant with jasmine and plum blossoms, now seems to carry the faint, metallic tang of regret and despair. The shadow of the washing punishment lingered long after the act itself, casting a pall over the lives of all women in aristocratic Chinese society. It serves as a stark reminder that even amidst the most breathtaking opulence and sophisticated culture, there existed a chilling capacity for human cruelty, especially when power dynamics were severely skewed. You can almost feel the weight of centuries of unspoken fear, a collective sigh carried on the gentle breeze. It's a silent history, perhaps, but one that whispers its truths through the ages. Recall that jade ring tied to a lost heir? In some twisted way, the washing punishment was designed to prevent such deviations from the established lineage and moral order. Any perceived threat to the purity of the bloodline or the sanctity of marital bonds, for women, at least, was met with extreme measures. The meticulous records kept by some dynasties, detailing not just noble births and deaths, but also transgressions, suggest a pervasive fear of disorder. A key historical nugget here is the concept of family shame, a blot on the entire clan's reputation that could lead to severe consequences for everyone, not just the individual culprit. This collective responsibility made betrayal and self-policing an integral part of daily life. One intriguing scholarly riddle that historians continue to debate is the true prevalence of the washing punishment. Was it a common practice, a regular tool of patriarchal control, or was it a rare, extreme measure reserved for the most heinous or politically sensitive cases of alleged adultery? The scarcity of detailed, official records specifically outlining its frequent application suggests it might have been an ultimate deterrent, a threat whispered rather than constantly enacted. This leads to the thought, did the fear of the punishment become more potent than the punishment itself, a silent weapon in the arsenal of social control? It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the difference between official decrees and the grim realities lived out in the shadows. You might find it a quirky elite oddity that while the physical suffering inflicted was unimaginable, the Chinese imperial court often placed a high value on stoicism and emotional restraint, especially for women. To betray emotion, even under extreme duress, was often seen as a weakness. So, the washing punishment was not just about physical pain, but also a test of ultimate endurance, of maintaining a semblance of composure even as one's very being was flayed. It's a bizarre contradiction, demanding both submission and an almost superhuman resilience from its victims. These nobles turned emotional repression into a twisted virtue, didn't they? It's enough to make you just shake your head in disbelief. The pervasive double standards, where male promiscuity was often tolerated or even celebrated while female fidelity was brutally enforced, remains a glaring point of contention for modern historians. It highlights a society where power, not morality, was the ultimate arbiter of justice. The women of the court, surrounded by opulence and privilege, were nonetheless trapped within a system that could turn on them with shocking ferocity. The distant murmurs hint at countless lives lived under the crushing weight of this hypocrisy, their silent sufferings lost to the grand narratives of emperors and dynasties. As our journey through these shadowed courts draws to a close, you are left with the profound realization of the fragility of human dignity in the face of absolute power. The washing punishment serves as a stark, chilling emblem of a bygone era's capacity for cruelty, a reminder that the most beautiful facades can conceal the darkest secrets. It urges us to remember that history is not merely a collection of dates and names, but a complex tapestry woven with the threads of human experience, of love, loss, intrigue, and unspeakable suffering. The echoes of those cries, though distant, continue to whisper through the corridors of time. As the last echoes of the ancient court fade, and the shimmering silks and cold iron become distant memories, allow yourself to drift further from the echoes of that shadowy world. Let the gentle hum of the night air surround you, coaxing your mind away from the weight of history's darker corners. The ancient stones, the whispered secrets, and the sorrowful fates now recede, becoming mere wisps of thought on the edge of your consciousness. Feel the calm settle over you, a soft blanket of peace drawing you into a deeper repose. The burdens of forgotten eras, the intrigues of noble shadows, all melt away into the quiet vastness of the night. There is only the gentle rhythm of your own breath, guiding you, soothing you. Let go of every last thought, every lingering image, and simply surrender to the tranquil stillness. May your dreams be light, untroubled by the echoes of past cruelties, and filled with a profound sense of peace.